Well, happy Friday or Thursday, wherever you are, and welcome to GeoHug. So I'm Jess from Prospectors and CoreSafe, and I'm your virtual host today. But this week's rockstar is Dr. Abani Samal. So Abani holds numerous qualifications from around the world, and he's been working in the mining industry since 1996. Currently, he's the founder and principal of GeoGlobal, which provides advisory services to exploration and mining companies, government agencies, and major financial institutions worldwide. So I'm really pleased that he's joining us today, and we'll be having a chat about productivity improvement through mine-to-mill reconciliation. So thank you so much again. We're so grateful that you're joining us.
Thank you, Jessica, for having me here today. When actually Jessica asked me to talk about on a topic, and I know that his the sessions she's hosting that attracts geologists, mining engineers, and process engineers also. I thought, well, why don't we talk about mine-to-mill reconciliation? And that's not generally, we get a talk on in a public domain. Before we start, let me see. Okay, that's briefly my kind of my resume in one slide. Okay, on the left-hand side, all my academic trainings or schools, you can say. Right-hand side, briefly, what I've been doing in last 20 plus years. And at the bottom is basically my affiliations. The sum of that is not everything is listed there. Okay, the reason actually I wanted to talk about it is a couple of years ago, I got a call. I was already doing my GeoGlobal venture here. It's a couple of years into it. This is my sixth year. I started in 2015 May. So I got a call for going to uranium production in Southern Africa. I won't actually take the name of the company or the operations. You understand why. The way the RFP was given over phone is, look, Abani, that is this is a multi-year, decades of years of production history in this mine. I said, uranium, okay, which projects I've seen before? Well, I've seen actually a couple properties in Europe, one in Australia, some in Athabasca. Okay, I know what I'm dealing with here. What's going on? Well, this property apparently ran pretty well. Ignored the year 6 and year 1 to year 11. Actually, that's roughly about 30 years. I just put some numbers in there just to give a sense of time on the x-axis. They're doing pretty good, for many years. But what happened actually, what you're seeing on that slide is, the difference between the actual production versus plan. That the amount of metal that they were expecting to get from that operation versus what they're getting. So on the y-axis, what you are seeing is the percentage differences. Okay, so I was getting a call around this time, so roughly about 20-25% difference. Like, Abani, you got to go there. I said, who else is there? I said, the whole mining team is going to help you. Okay, so pretty interesting project. What I learned there, I think, through this presentation, I'll share some of the experiences and some of the data and charts I'll show you, like this one. They're sanitized enough that the real numbers are not projected, but you will see the trends that remain the same. We'll get the message out of it. Okay, so okay, so what is it then? Again, this particular project, started with the discuss on the mine plan. Well, mine plan to do something, and we got to extract the metal. Now we are seeing 20-25% differences. It's actually we're losing. When I hear this type of thing, the mine is losing. My first question to whoever I'm talking on the other side of the phone is like, are you really losing, or is it just a difference, a relative difference between the plan versus achievement year to year. Whether we're losing or not, that's a different thing. That's a financial thing we're talking about. But yeah, so we are actually losing in terms of the in comparison with the planned amount of metal that we're supposed to get. We are not getting it. That's the problem. Okay, but my question was, do they have the resource model that should be feeding to mine planning? And the mine planning should be actually there should be a mining department. They should have a short-term model and the production model and those kind of things. They should be managing that. Yeah, and between mining and extraction, there should be process plants and stuff. Yeah, all of them are there. They're ready to host you. Okay, what we're trying to do here in the reconciliation actually, goal is always to find out how well the actual production compares to the planned ore and west movement from the mine to plant, and improve the productivity through bridging the gap between planning and production. I see reconciliation as a process through which you learn a lot and take the learning and improve the process so that there's always a where there's a room for improvement, where you work on it and we achieve it. Okay, the assumptions are all data are correct. Mine plan production data are accurate measures of the reality. That's the assumption. I cannot change anything. I have a trick there. I'll probably mention through this presentation here. I call it M3 product reconciliation. First M is mineral resource and mineral reserve. Reserve goes into planning. Second M is mining operation. Third M is metal extraction. So 3 different nodes, the main node. Then all the nodes, if you expand them, they may become like all different detailed nodes of an integrated operation. On the left-hand side, what we are seeing here is the data that is collected. You get exploration data, blast hole data that feeds into a long-term resource model, and life of mine, maybe it's a reserve model, and a short-term model that goes into production. Beyond this line, but where we are seeing the production and material flow. The mining here is going to crushing and grinding and milling, and then we are getting the realization of the value at the end of the smelting process, right? The flow of data in the entire value chain kind of goes like this. The reconciliation is really about, you get the data here, and you get the input here on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we have all the production, and we are collecting data on different nodes. And the reconciliation is the process of making sure that the data that goes in on the left-hand side, we get the same results on the right-hand side, something like that. And then in this list, you will see this is a paper, pretty well-known authors in here. The source is down there. You can see we have an exhaustive list of different nodes where you can actually do the comparison and relationship. To me, this is too many. To me, actually, what they say is a grade control model is basically a short-term production model, okay? And I believe what they mean by the mine plan to production, that's a redundant one. I would say mine production to plant feed. So the yellow highlights are the ones I suggest the minimum number of nodes where we should be reconciling the numbers. Again, the reserve to mine production is an optional node. If you guys want to discuss this further, we can actually discuss at the end of my presentation in here. Again, 6 different nodes where we should be checking. The first one is resource reserve model. Reserve model to grade control, then grade control to production to plant, and the plant feed to plant production. That is also I put as an optional. So at the minimum, 5 different places we should be checking the number. That is the full reconciliation process. Obviously, in this some of these slides, you will see that some of the tricks and techniques I use. Those are very simple ones. I'm not going to go details into geostatistics or statistical analysis in here. I try to keep it less mathematical and less technical. This is a iron ore project. Here, what you are looking at, the histogram of the blast hole data, raw blast hole data, and the mining engineers took the blast hole data, put together with other data to create a grade control model, and that's going into a like a 6 months or yearly production plan. More or less, they look okay to me. They compare well. We understand that. When you bring in the long-term model in there, the long-term model is, the input data for the long-term model is different, right? These are all exploration data that was used. So when I say, well, the long-term model is used for the long-term mine planning, and then you take the long-term mine plan and put the short-term mine plan on it. So how does that compare? And if I put the cutoff grade in here, you can see how well the long-term model compares with the short-term model. There's definitely a bias in this particular case. That's not always the case in iron ore mines. I have seen some of the cases that are really, really great. What you are seeing in this particular one is, their short-term model is basically, proportionately speaking, underestimating the amount of metal they could extract from this project. This comparison shows that the short-term model statistically represents the blast hole data, but however, the long-term model predicted much less material as ore compared to the short-term model. That's just one thing that we do to compare the long-term versus short-term models and see where it's going. It's another one actually from another iron ore project. I'm not showing actually magnetite percent in here. I'm sorry. All we are seeing here is iron percentage data. On the x-axis, what you're seeing here is the blast hole data, raw blast hole data. Again, on the y-axis is the grade control model, right? What you would expect in ideal case is this is a one-on-one type of relationship. But what we get in reality is a cluster. Okay. If I put this dashed line, these are the cutoff grades. Okay, what we are seeing is a beautiful waste material is predicted as waste material. Fantastic. Majority of the ore material was also predicted as ore material. That's good. So ore is going to ore, waste going to ore, waste material. But what's going on here is this quadrant and that quadrant. So here on this quadrant, you have bunch of material that is actually the grade control model says, hey, these are all actually ore materials, say above the cutoff grade, but the blast hole data says it's not. So it's actually the waste is classified as ore over there, and the reverse the case in here. So you do not want your blocks to be either this one or that one. Those two quadrants, those are basically loss-making quadrants there. Why those things happen really? In iron ore is bulk commodity mining. Why those things happen? And going back to that slide again. So down here, I list actually the discrepancies can be attributed to the reserve modeling parameters, maybe the quality of the data used. One of the things, this is not exactly the same project, but a similar project where I saw a similar problem. Down below this figure, what you are seeing is the detailed geological map. You can actually appreciate how much folding in this iron ore is. Above is the model. Is briefly speaking, is basically oversimplifying the geology model. the consequence there is you're actually, some of the waste material that you are bound to take them as ore material, and basically, instead of going to dumps, it's going to a mill, maybe. Those kind of scenario may happen. That's called ore waste misclassification. Okay, that's one of the reasons why this happens. In one case, actually, I recall in Canada, actually, they had a huge um, plant upgradation plan, and when we looked at it, I said, "Well, why you're doing it? It's because of the clay. They're finding it." When we investigated that a little further, we found that there are the clay patches in the mine. They're not just showing up in their updated geology model. So mining engineers you don't know. We said, why don't you update that? You probably save a lot of money, upgrading the plant. You probably don't need it. You really don't need to bring the clay to the plant. You don't need to. So once the mining engineers know where they are, they won't mine it. As simple as that. So what's the result of this? Like, you saw I used this diagram in one of the slides there. I use this diagram very frequently. What it shows that in the x-axis is the estimated value, and the y-axis is the true value. Most of the time, it's the past data. You don't want to be here, you don't want to be there, right? What happens in reality, this is what exactly where everyone wants to be. We want everything, or we want to mine them, and everything waste material, we want to send them to the waste places. Basically, we do not want to actually do the ore waste misclassification. But in reality, that's what happens. That flattens, that ellipse becomes flat. And sometimes actually it becomes like this. It may not be actually, on that 1-1 line. It may be actually a different orientation. That really shows, and that this chart is very typical to um, a project. Even on project to project, even in one big mining project, you'll see that chart also changing from one area to the other depending on type of planning and type of ore body there, and the complexity of the ore body there. Why actually we see this as differences? We see there's there may be three main reasons for that I've seen in my experience. And the way resource model, reserve models, they are done, and the short-term model is done. Also, the sampling techniques and the data quality. Some of the pictures I'm showing here, how in one copper mine they do the sampling in here, and that may be different for in another mine. Basically, another. From a publication I'm showing you here, you can see that drill hole and blast holes are not really same quality, and that may be a reason too. Even though we know some of the reasons why there's a difference between planning and the production, still what we want to do is make always try to find a way to improve on the planning, and also there may be a way to actually improve the production side too. This particular slide I'm just showing you to make a point that sometimes if we go monthly versus quarterly versus annual time scales, the reconciliation, you see in the monthly scale, they're very, they show that, there's a huge differences between a plant versus production. But, that is the nature of the deposit maybe, and it's the nature of, ore maybe. But once you look at the quarterly, that gives a better picture of the reconciliation. Annual reconciliation is generally very smooth. That shows the at an annual scale how the production meet the planning targets. I often advise people not to go into weekly reconciliation, and if you do, keep it internal, don't publish it, because in any mine you go in a weekly scale, you'll always see the differences. No excuses there. In the in the reconciliation process, mining engineers play a big role, and so are the geologists. The surveyors, all the people involved in the production. The point is actually it's not just geologists doing the reconciliation or the mining engineer doing the reconciliation. This is a multiple people's team. Is a integrated approach. It's an integrated project all the time in any production, any reconciliation project that you go is there. What really matters? I'm gonna skip this one actually. What really matters is the most. It's not just the if you compare the tons of material that was planned to be mined and the what we mined, you may see this upper chart shows that they're doing good. But actually, what matters when you compare the metal that was planned to be extracted and what is being extracted, there may be a substantial differences. At the end of the day, what makes the mine profitable or operating actually is the metal that we extract, isn't it? It's not just tons of ore. Here's a case from the copper, one of the copper operations. What you see here is your ore control model that blue color that always over predicts what was mined actually, and whatever happened in August in just that particular month. If this is a monthly scale reconciliation, you would expect the differences in there. But the reason actually I was looking at this particular case is the ore control model was over predicting all the time. Particularly in this month, I was calling to see why those differences are there. In this particular one, what we found out, they're mining at a different geometallurgical domain for which the plant wasn't probably ready. And they didn't actually expect that. That goes back to how well your geometallurgical domains are set for predicting what you're going to mine in a short term. When you discuss about reconciliation, you would see that you will hear about various factors. There are M factors, G factors, and those kind of factors you'll hear from the in the industry. Generally, what they do, all those factors, basically, these are ratios of plant versus reserve. Like in the previous slide I showed, there are 5 different nodes you should be comparing. This is a plant versus resource model, plant versus mining model, plant feed versus production model. This is a this particular chart or type of chart comes from an operation where plant maintains or manages the reconciliation. Again, we're going into another area of discussion. Who is actually managing the reconciliation? In general, generally, you go to the plant. Actually, the plant is actually maintaining it, and everyone is feeding that data to the plant. What I have seen worldwide is a good operation. Always in a good operation, the reconciliation is managed by both mining operation and the process plant guys together. That's where you get a good reconciliation temporal. I'll just touch upon the spatial reconciliation. This is just a schematic diagram. If you have 4 different areas, and where actually you may, you plan to mine something and you mine in the same area, we call it in, out, in type of reconciliation. This is much more difficult to manage and also document. I've seen few projects doing it. Most of the time they do actually temporal. That means time-wise at different time scales they do reconciliation, but spatial reconciliation is difficult. That's why I think people really skip it or don't do it. Here's a question I asked an executive in an operation when I was asked, why we're producing less. I said, well, let's have a look. Your total tons of material that you mined in this one in this chart, okay? Fine. It's quite a rough ride, looks like, in between. For some reason you mined a lot. But your life of mine plan that showed like it's gonna go smooth. What happened? And then the explanation comes in between these years, we had all these factors, we produced a lot. Actually, they're stripping a lot of material. There's a lot of waste material in there. And I said, well, what about ore material, actually? What we're doing there? Well, we did a good job, fast about 10 years, but now we're not doing it actually enough. What happened? You see, guys, this is a chart. I think I want to spend a minute on this one. If it is okay, Jessica, if we have enough time now. See, up to this time, actually, they're doing good, right? There was no technical review or anything was nothing happening. They're celebrating. Here, the project was really doing. Not really producing as per the plan. The red line shows the life of mine production. Remember, that's a straight line. A brilliant team of people said the mine production will be straight line. That's how it's going to go throughout the life. I was like, what? You're not adapting any technology? Are you not changing in the management? The project has changed 3 major management changes in here. How can you actually keep the life of mine production that constant? There are difference, in the history of this production, of the production of this project. There are 3 major changes. And you should be actually revisiting the life of mine and see what are the differences. You should be adapting some other techniques or something. When they were here, they're seeing that this thing is gonna come. Fine. When they hit to this time, they don't see this, around 2013 and 14 scenarios coming back. These guys are saying, well, we are seeing this. And this is all actually projected. Okay? So that's when they started actually calling me and bunch of us from different parts of the world, have a look what we have done and what we could do to get the production up. My first question was, did we revisit the life of mine plan? No. This is done long time ago when the investment was made. We came back in 5 years after, still were doing good. Then we did not revisit it. I think my impression was, guys, I think, we should have actually, the project should have revisited the life of mine, say, well, there are some changes. There's, in the management, there are some changes in the equipments. There are upgrades of the fleet that we're using, and we're not able to upgrade the plant. All these changes are there. We should be actually looking at if we can maintain the plan. So my own interpretation was actually mining is doing good. It's just the way the plan was made was probably not realistic. So my final thoughts: reconciliation is a process of validation of resource, reserve, and mine plans, and all associated assumptions for incremental improvement of productivity. It's a good thing to do. And every project should do actually internal reconciliations and maintain it. It is an integrated and a multidisciplinary process. Geologists, geometallurgists, surveyors, mining engineers, process engineers, metallurgists, everyone is involved. When personally I go for a reconciliation project, I take a week or so talking to all the people, getting the real data from them. And People are always honest. They'll tell you everything that is happening at the operation. And that helps me to make the story actual story. What is it really is the project really losing value, or is it just an apparent loss? Is real not a real loss? Where are the if there is a bottleneck everyone is talking about, is there a real bottleneck we should be worrying about? The process, when practiced properly, it really adds value. It corrects the assumptions, replaces the assumptions with the real numbers or real factors there. It calibrates the parameters and to a realistic ones. For an example, in one operation I saw in the mine planning, it assumed 8 hours per day shifts. But what the mine planner did not understand, in that particular location or in that country, 8 hours includes the travel time of the workers. That's like 2 hours minus. That actual workers work for 6 hours a day. That is there, roughly about 20% difference, right? So, those type of things should be realistic ones. When it is done well, it really reduces the loss due to unknowns. It is always a good idea to consult with an external expert and to review the production history and also that of the operation, and make sure that the plan and productions reconcile. I think that's all, from my side. When the production and the plan is reconciled, we all celebrate it. Thank you all. That's my contact details. Anyone who was interested, actually, I'm here to take questions.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, you're all welcome to jump off mute, ask questions, let us know if there's anything that you'd like to further discuss.
I had a quick one, Dr. Abani. This is like the approach to reconciliation is different in different organization and different in different commodities. And what I've observed is people tend not to talk about reconciliation when they are doing good in terms of their production, when they are making profits and stuff like that. I mean, is that like a more universal case? I have had a limited experience of in a couple of operations, and I have made this observation. So my question is like, when they go through bad times, they stick hard on reconciliation. Is that true, or why do you think it is so? That's my question. Thank you.
Yes, Krishna, that is kind of the trend in the industry. When an operation does well, we celebrate it, but we forget to document why we're doing well. Okay. Yes. In my opinion, what I have talked to the other executives guys, we need to be serious actually when we're doing good, so that we know what is actually happening, why we're doing good. That can be repeated. So you have a model set. You are right. Actually, most of the time when you go to an operation, go to any department, geology, planning, or process planning. Oh, we are doing good. Basically, don't come here. Okay, don't ask us how we are doing. That's just a fear factor, general, kind of human part of doing the job there. Yes, when the management sees that there's a loss of value, or there's a potential loss of value, at that time they do actually call for reconciliation. However, there are actually companies, the reconciliation is what they do on a regular basis, and they maintain it. At the same time, Krishna, I say what I was saying, I will always add that it doesn't matter how mature the operation is. They should always bring someone from outside and have a look whether they're doing everything good. Thanks for that comment there.
Thanks very much for your interesting talk. So speaking, this is more a comment than a question, but speaking about different commodities, a big difference between, say, gold, when you're dealing with grams per ton of grade, as opposed to percentages of grade in a copper operation or a lead zinc flotation plant. is the sampling is very important, particularly for gold. I found that grade control with blast hole drilling is often not good enough. They need to go to RC drilling to actually get, due to the nugget effect, to get proper sampling. So just a general comment that the sampling for different commodities is very important as well.
David, that is a brilliant comment. I really thank you for that. Sampling is kind of in the heart of everything, right? And everyone jumps to the modeling, because people know that, okay, when I show up, okay, Abani comes means is all going to be modeling now. I look at the quality of the sampling. Okay, I showed you some pictures, really, but every project I go to the site and observe how they're doing the sampling. You're right. When I go to iron ore, their sampling process is totally different. If you have been to iron ore operations in Brazil, you'll see mass, and the same in Australia, actually, that would be the same case, right? Versus you come to Bingham Canyons, or other copper projects, their sampling versus the gold operations, their sampling are totally different. Yes, they need to be very, very careful about it, from actually how they drill it, how they collect the sample, how they process it, every step of it. If sampling is bad, then everything, data is not trustworthy. That's what I said in the beginning, that we make sure that the project gives us most reliable data. Still, David, when I go as an independent expert, I definitely go to the site, have a look, and tell them, okay, guys, you told me that it's all perfect data, but have a look. You may be aware that, the blast hole sampling just from the scarts, the way it's distributed, right? That creates a quick bias, particularly when you're in gold and silver provinces.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's been some comments. Sampling for different commodities is such a good point, and lots of thank yous, interesting talk. So there's lots of appreciative people. So thank you again.
Abani, I've got a question for you. So I've got a client in Turkey who's having issues with reconciliation, and we're going to start a little pilot project where we analyze the blast chips to identify the mineralogy and to use the alteration information. Have you used something like that before?
Yes. This particular one I'm talking about, sorry, I can't give the location. It's in the Western United States. That's all I can say. So it's kind of dry climate there, right? We always deal with these oxidation zones, and when the operation is in the oxidation zone, they're fine. They go to the hypogeum in the original sulfides, they're fine. What gives them the headache is when they have the mixed zone. Okay, what they actually call the mixed zone, Melissa. Having seen this type of problems many times, I suspected that they have a structural geology problem. They're like, what? I said, yeah, you haven't mapped your structures yet, have you? So to back up my, it's really guesswork. Okay, I thought so. When I did some data analysis, I said, well, that may be other structural trends. Are you guys aware of some trends of the fractures in the inner deposits? Because of COVID, I can't go to the site. So what may be happening in this particular, you can relate to that. The fractures going into between the oxides going into the hypogeum, that creates these mixed zones. That's why they cannot, no one can actually really model it. There cannot be any perfect model of that, right? So there, the mineralogical differences really changes for like every meter to meter. That changes in mineralogy. There are various ways to handle that, but Melissa, I'm an independent consultant right now. I want to help them, but the thing is, I have to have enough time to help them. But yes, I'm aware of such problems, the mineralogical changes due to oxidation. That definitely, if you want to talk about it more, we can also talk offline.
Thank you so much, Abani, for taking the time. So I really appreciate you coming on.